Hi, this is Marge Beeler with RareAgent, and today for our mentor video series is Jamie Shanks, who is the founder and CEO of Sales for Life. And Jamie, welcome.
Thank you so much for the invite.
You're welcome. So if you don't mind, if you can share with us a little bit about how did you get to where you are right now in your career, and then just quickly, maybe 3 to 5 minutes, and then from there we'll start the actual interview on mentoring.
Fantastic. So I was a failed consultant that through pain and trial and tribulation figured out a secondary consulting model around helping sellers with digital and social selling. And essentially we've now become the global leader on that topic. But I was a vice president of sales at a SaaS software company here in Toronto, Canada. And I thought I had all the answers there ever was to know about sales. And so on January 4th, 2010, I shook the hand of the CEO I was working for. I said, I quit and I'm going to start a consulting firm. And that sounded like a fantastic idea, except that 18 months later, I was getting ready to file for bankruptcy. I was filing for bankruptcy because I did not eat my own dog food. I had no sustainable sales pipeline, nor had I built myself an online brand. So imagine I'm contacting decision makers, giving them sales advice, and in fact, they would do a quick online search and they would never find me. And so how could they take me seriously? But what ended up happening days before my wedding is a customer of mine got caught with fraud and embezzlement. And they owed me all the money in the world, $35,000 US, which at the time might as well have been $1 zillion. And now I'm going to get married, but I have no customers, no money, no job. My wife will be supporting us for the next couple of years. And so there's more to this story, but to truncate it, in 2011, I had a choice in life, and it was to continue down the path that I was on, and that path was clearly not working. Or I could evolve, I could learn a new skill, I could change. And I don't even think I set out a path of change. It just happened to find me. And I self-discovered the power of digital platforms as a means of communication with customers, except I was first or early to this topic. And then I began teaching others how to use tools like LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter to drive conversations, sales conversations in a business-to-business context. And a business was born 6 years later, Sales for Life.
That is wonderful. And I didn't know that background with you. So that, I think you should be in one of those motivational, you know, how you have the motivational quotes and see people and how they've changed their life. You're on my list now.
Oh, appreciate it.
Yeah. So, and it's hard. I mean, I've been through cycles of business. Sometimes it's really great. Sometimes it isn't. So it's very hard. So now that you're in the position that you are, you've had lots of success. And let's say you were to mentor someone, maybe a company size of 50 million came to you. What 3 points would you give them to if you started to mentor? What would be the 3 mentoring points you would really stress with them?
So if I'm mentoring, let's say I'm mentoring a peer, because it's easy, a sales peer as an example. The first is I would have them think through the mindset of the openness to change. Some of the best advice, or some of the simplest advice I was ever given. As an example, when you wake up in the morning and you grab your mobile phone, stop checking your mobile phone and checking email in the first 5 minutes of your day. Email is other people's priorities, not your own. Take that same 5 minutes and read an article, consume it, share it with your social network. Not only are you engaging other people, but in 250 business days in a year, you're learning new skills. And from a mindset standpoint, begin or re-begin a process of adult learning. Evolve, change, learn. So that mindset of being open and willingness to change, even though change is hard, moves you then into, we'll say, a skill set. And from a skill set standpoint, I recommend, as I extended my network to people that I wanted to emulate. So one of the very first things I did when I began Sales for Life is I recognized I had no customers. And we're talking about an example of a $50 million business. So you already have an established customer base. But what I needed to do was map out the sphere of influence the social proximity, so to speak, of the people that I knew. Who did they know that they could introduce me to? And who did I want to emulate? So there were kind of two paths that I took. First, I started drawing circles around everyone that I knew that I had done business with. And I started mapping, using social platforms, their relationships to people I would want to get to know. And then the other piece, so then I built a path of introductions and referrals on one path. And then the second path was I started mapping out who did I want to be when I grew up. And so if I'm mentoring somebody from a skill set standpoint of a $50 million business, you say, okay, what organizations do you want to become? What service lines do you want to begin offering, or product lines? Start finding best in class and start mapping and reverse engineering. What are they doing that you're not? And get on their radar. And I'm a big believer in co-opetition, being willing to befriend the competition and get to know them. And so I leveraged influencer marketing. I made this list of all these great sales trainers and consultants and so forth, who ultimately I would be selling into the same buyer they were, but I began sharing their content, networking with them, meeting them personally, trying to associate myself with them. And I would learn from them as to what product should I offer? What services should I offer? And then that again then goes into a toolkit and investing in any sort of, whether it's future technology or platforms that allow you to enable your own personal growth. For me, it was digital and social platforms. By mentoring somebody in a business, it might be the creation of agile development of software or innovation. But I'm a big believer that you first have to open your mind. You're willing to learn new skills. Then you're going to find ways of acquiring skills and networks to get you there. And then you're going to mechanize this using any sort of tool and innovation that can speed up this process.
That was a great answer. One of the other individuals that I interviewed he said, you got to be able to lead yourself first. If you can't lead yourself first, how do other people expect you to lead them? And also to make the mentor accountable. So you share with them what you expect out of them. If they don't do it, you make them accountable. If they don't do it, you drop them. They got to understand that your time is valuable. So I appreciate that. You mentioned skill sets. So one of the things that I think is very interesting is I see a lot of companies where maybe they don't invest in their sales reps, but the successful sales reps find a way to invest in themselves and maybe even go after a program like yours, an individual sales rep. What's your view on that?
In every sales organization, the concept of Parados Law will exist forever. Parados Law meaning that 20% of sellers create 80% of impact. 20% of sellers create 80% of the activity or are involved in 80% of the learning and development of the organization. That law will not break. But, and this is the big but, one of the best findings ever was by CEB, the creator of the Challenger Sale and Challenger Customer. And what they found was, imagine instead of Parados Law being this weighted scale of 80-20, imagine thinking of it as a wave. And basically on the bookends, you've got A players, B players, and C players. A players make up about 15, maybe 20% of your sales force. B players make up the vast majority, 50 to 70% of your sales force. And then C players make up that bottom 15 to 20%. If you can move the B players by 5%, so imagine you've given them extra tools in their toolkit to book one more meeting a week or create one more opportunity a month. But at scale of the organization, it actually has a greater impact than tooling up the few remaining A players. A players, by definition, almost through that Challenger sale, are always going to find a way to be successful. They're on the latest tools. They're on the latest trends. They're willing to put themselves out and experiment. The B player isn't necessarily that person, but they create the greatest impact in the business. And so if you can focus on skilling those people up, even just 5 to 10 degrees, but assuming you have scale of people, it will make a far greater impact than just saying to yourself, okay, A players are A players. I'm going to hunker down and spend all my time with my best performers. I'm going to comb their hair, pet their hair, make them feel loved, and I'm going to neglect everybody else. And in fact, the evidence has shown, yes, of course, A players are going to find it, but B players at scale will make the biggest impact.
Let's talk about assessment tests and skills. So one of the things I really enjoyed speaking with Jill Conrath and even Bob Perkins on this, because we all giggled about, you got the DISC training, you have all different trainings out there. You got the Wonderlic, all these trainings. And as I told them, sometimes you think your strength is the strength, and you find out, you take this test and you're like, oh, because I'm very extroverted. You know, I'm very goal-oriented, but to a point that I'm too outgoing, that it can sometimes alienate people. Don't mean to be. And I know you're an extrovert. I'm just going to say, I see you on stage. I know you are. So have you taken any of those assessment tests and from that kind of giggled or said, ooh, I got to work on this one skill because I didn't realize how it was impacting my business?
Absolutely. So I've taken two. One was the challenger sale. Ironically, I am not a challenger, and I know that of myself. What I am is on the 5 levels of the challenger sale. I'm the hard worker. So I grew up a country kid. I can shovel more dirt or more snow out of a ditch than other people. My strength was I just logged more hours, more flights, more work than other people. That does not mean I ever worked smarter. So my strength has been, I actually know what manual labor is like. And so I'll put in more time and effort, but at the detriment of my own health, at the detriment of working smart. And the other thing that I did, I think it's DISC. And in fact, I was with Dave Matheson, CEO of Sandler, and we were laughing about it. And I can't remember which of the 4 letters it is, but he said, and let's call it the I. I can't remember which one it is. He said, of all the people I've ever met in the world, you are the strongest X, I think it was the I can't remember, I have ever met in my life. So what that has meant, and I'll give you it as an example as an entrepreneur. What I've recognized in myself, I love being on stage. I love meeting customers. I love winning deals. But I don't like the details. And so in my own business, financial rigor, as an example, I struggle with in my own business and in my own personal life. Because for me, all I want to do is talk on stage, meet customers, win deals. All the other details I can push aside. And so that in lies then the question, do I double and triple and 10x down on my strengths? Or do I even spend a minute on basic competencies? What I ended up doing was I've put very little effort into the things that I don't know very well or willing to learn. I can read a balance sheet and income statement to its basic levels, but I am not spending time to become greatly proficient on them. I am actually trying to 10x what I can do. I want to become a much greater prolific speaker, book writer, stronger in the boardroom. I think I can add 10 times more value there than if I could read a balance sheet and understand why I'm spending money too much, right? So
that is so true. Like I said, I'm having such a fun time with this mentor program because you all have mentored me. You know, you've been wonderful. We've done business. We had a client, you know, you gave me a lead to go close it. We closed. It was fun, right? Well, Jill and I were talking about the DISC, Jill Conrad, and she's like, same with you. I don't like the details. You know, I get bored. If I don't have enough to do or lots to change, I'm going to cause problems. No, me too, you know. So it's so true.
And if I could polish my speaking to 1/10 of Jill's speaking abilities, then I'm on the right path. You know, and Jill is like the matriarch of the sales speaking world, and we all she sits at the top of the pyramid, and we just want to we're emulating what she does.
Well, she likes to change it up every 7 years, and she said it's been 15, so there's a change now coming. So we'll have to wait. I'm not going to spoil it, but we'll have to wait to see what might be coming down the pike for her. Well, thank you for doing this. This was so much fun. We have a lot of similarities, so it's very interesting, and it's very motivating for me, because I'm kind of at a little, I don't want to say slump. I'm trying to get back up here, and I'm like right here. So you really motivated me, and I appreciate your time and your energy. And I love watching your success. I see it all over Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and you guys are doing a great job.
Thank you so much. And trust me, we've had our levels of staircases, and I'll sit on a certain stair, and I wonder, am I ever going to be able to get my foot to the next stair? And then you get to the stair and you think, okay, no, this is it. I don't know if I could ever do it again. So I completely understand the staircasing of levels.
Yeah. So I've hired my own personal kind of life and business coach, a CEO coach. And boy, does she hold me accountability. Accountable. I'm like, oh, and one thing she told me is, I do not like to feel sad emotions. I'm good with all the happy. But if something disappoints me, even in my personal life, don't like it. And I think it's because I never saw my mom cry. She passed, but I never saw my mom cry. So it's a sign of weakness for me. And she's like, that is a blocking point for you. So it's just interesting what you learn about yourself when you take these tests, and then you get someone who makes you accountable and holds you to it. So
interesting. I almost need to redo disc.
Yeah.
Or Myers-Briggs.
Well, thanks again. Yeah. It was great.
Thank you.
Okay, hold on.